So, does anyone care to touch on this further?
My name is Jerry. I left MAGA, and I'm here to spill all the tea. So I've been trying to come up with a reasonable response, or what I feel is a reasonable response to the murders of Renee, Nicole, Smith, Good, and Alex Pretti. Rough times. I'm hearing a lot of different views, a lot of different opinions. Some of them, most of them are valid. The ones that I've been hearing, some of them seem a little inflammatory. So I I took all day yesterday just to contemplate how to approach this. Uh, some people go to various texts for their support. Me, I'm rather fond of this book. Notice the Lutheran bookmarks. That was something that one of the church ladies did and passed them around because there's a lot. I don't understand the Lutheran thing. I'm new to it, but not is it just the Art of War, but it's the Art of War and the annotated version of the Art of War, as well as these other philosophical texts, writings that influenced Sun Tzu and his writing of the Art of War, which I looked in there and I did end up finding an online copy of the Art of War that matches up with the print copy that I have. So I'll share that up, and apparently I need to adjust my position. Um, the reason I want to start with chapter 3, I'm going to make another video here after this one on chapter 4, is because of the emphasis on strategy. And these strategies are things that are not only applied from an aggressive military stance, but it's also good rules to have in a field of combat. But there are also ultimately peaceful resolutions for various conflicts. And we'll see a little bit of that here on point 2. But I want to go ahead and kind of jump into this. My girlfriend's in the background, so she may pipe up with some questions for clarification. I hope she does, because this is like mostly new material to her, and this is like been part of the fabric of my life for a good portion of my life. So chapter 3, attack by stratagem. Number 1, Sun Tzu said, in the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good. So, 2, it is better to capture an army entire than to destroy it. To capture a regiment, a detachment, or a company entire than to destroy them. So what they bring in for the annotation is clarification on unit sizes. And so the equivalent to an Army Corps, according to, and I'm going to probably butcher these names, it's this Western tongue of mine. According to the equivalent to an Army Corps, according to Suma Fa, consisted nominally or minimally of 12,500 men. According to Sao Kung, the equivalent of a regiment contained 500 men. The equivalent to a detachment contains any number from between 100 and 500, and the equivalent of a company contains from 5 to 100 men. For the last two, however, Chang Yu gives the exact figures of 105, respectively. Number 2, hence, to fight and conquer in all your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. This is why I'm addressing this way. Annotations. Here again, no modern strategist but will approve the words of the old Chinese general. Moltke's greatest triumph, the capitulation of the huge French army at Sedan, was won practically without bloodshed. Strategies. Uh, Organizational effectiveness down to your smallest units, squad, whatever you want to call them, that may be going out and, from my perspective, monitoring activities, like, say, going out and monitoring ice. This is specifically because of what's going on. This is why I'm approaching this way. I personally don't have the health to be able to go out in this cold weather we have right now. Like the Minnesotans, man, it was way colder there yesterday than it is in St. Louis today. I'm just saying, kudos to the Minnesotans. But I'm trying to get across the point that with the right strategies, things can be turned around with minimal bloodshed at the very least. And there's already been way too much. Number 3, plus the highest form of generalship is to balk the enemy's plans. Annotation. Perhaps the word balk falls short of expressing the full force of the Chinese word. That's English for you. Which implies not an attitude of defense, whereby one might be content to foil the enemy's stratagems, one after another, but an active policy of counterattack. Ho Shi puts this very clearly in his note, quote, when the enemy has made a plan of attack against us, we must anticipate him by delivering our own attack first, end quote. And annotation. Now, I want to interject my own thoughts here. Let's see. Attack could just mean take action. One of the things that I carry in my camera pack when I am out and about are these ice awareness cards and these little whistle kits. We've been seeing that whistle brigades work great. Direct challenge by certain individuals. I mean, I'm a veteran, so being a white male American military veteran, I have certain privileges that I can leverage, especially when dealing with other military or those who think they're military. I can get away a little bit more than some other people can, but that's a great way to resist. And so in this context, I'm not saying attack like as in go beat somebody up. I'm saying take action to foil their plans. And if that means whistle brigades, which are working, taunting, shaming. In chapter 4, we'll get into the whole cost risk balance, but let's move on here. So Sun Tzu goes on to say, the next best is to prevent the junction of the enemy's forces. Annotation. Isolating him from his allies, we must not forget that Sun Tzu, in speaking of hostilities, always has in mind the numerous states or principalities into which the China of his day was split up. So again, we're talking about factional interaction. And so if a wall of people with interlocked arms blowing whistles were to provide enough interference peacefully to inhibit movement of people from one space to another, like reinforcements, that would not be an unreasonable, in my opinion, that would not be an unreasonable action. Again, calculating what can you as an individual afford to lose, what risks can you absorb. we'll get into that later. Sun Tzu goes on to wait a minute. So yeah, Sun Tzu goes on to say the next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field. Annotation: when he is already at full strength. Now, one of the ways. Oh, and then finishing out number 3. And the worst policy of all is to besiege walled cities. Now, one could argue that Minneapolis, the Twin Cities, or something of a walled city because of those big buildings and all that. But I'm not going there. But this point of the next in order is to attack the enemy's army in the field. Sleep deprivation tactics. The hotel kicking the ice guys out. But the mariachi bands that have been reported outside these hotels denying these troublemakers their sleep is just an absolutely brilliant way to attack the enemy's army in the field. And if I remember one thing from my military training, sleep deprivation is a tool that will crack anybody eventually. All right, moving on. Number 4. The rule is not to besiege walled cities if it is possible, if it can possibly be avoided. Annotation: another sound piece of military theory. Had the Boers acted upon it in 1899 and refrained from dissipating their strength before Kimberley, Mafeking, sorry about the pronunciation, or even Ladysmith, it is more than probable that they would have been masters of the situation before the British were ready seriously to oppose them. So it's like, just take that on face value, please. The Sun Tzu goes on, the preparation of mantles, movable shelters, and various implements of war will take up 3 whole months. Annotation: it is not quite clear what the Chinese word, here translated as mantles, described. Sao Kung simply defines them as large shields, but we get a better idea from them of them from Li Chuan, who says they were to protect the heads of those who were assaulting the city walls at close quarters. This seems to suggest some sort of Roman testudo, ready-made. If you don't know, the testudo was a mobile tower that was, well, actually, it describes it later. Tumu says they were wheeled vehicles used in repelling attacks, but this is denied by Chen Ho. See Supra 214. The name is also applied to turrets on city walls. Of the movable shelters, we get a fairly clear description from several commentators. They were wooden, missile-proof structures on 4 wheels, propelled from within, covered with rawhides, and used in sieges to convey parties of men to and from the walls, or for the purpose of filling up the encircling moat with earth. Tumu adds that they are now called wooden donkeys, and so that's the end of that annotation. Sun Tzu goes on to say, and the piling of mounds over the walls will take 3 months more. Annotation: these were great mounds or ramparts of earth heaped up to the level of the enemy's walls in order to discover the weak points in the defense, and also to destroy the fortified turrets mentioned in the preceding note. So yeah, it would seem like that would be pretty unnecessary. But I also don't think that that's necessarily immediately applicable to what I'm trying to transmit. Number 5, the general, unable to control his irritation, will launch his men to assault like swarming ants Have we seen that lately? Annotation. This vivid simile of Sao Kung is taken from the spectacle of an army of ants climbing a wall. The meaning is that the general, losing patience at the long delay, may make a premature attempt to storm the place before his engines of war are ready. End annotation. Sun Tzu continues, with the result that 1/3 of his men are slain while the town still remains untaken. Such are the disastrous effects of a siege. Annotation. We are reminded of the terrible losses of the Japanese before Port Arthur in the most recent siege which history has to record. Number 6. Therefore, the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. He captures their cities without laying siege to them. He overthrows their kingdom without lengthy operations in the field. Annotation. Cha Lin notes that he only overthrows the government, but does no harm to individuals. The classical instance of Wu Wang, who, after having put an end to the Yin dynasty, was acclaimed, quote, father and mother of the people, end quote. End annotation. Now that's an interesting concept, and we've seen through the works of such organizations as the Heritage Foundation, with Project 2025 through Donald Trump, and then they got like 60% of their agenda through with Reagan. I think the Trump administration got stopped before they've hit the 50% mark. Last time I looked, it was like 48 point something percent completed on Project 2025. There's been a lot going on. They're getting a lot of pushback, and I'm happy to see that. But yeah, it's this overthrowing the government from the inside by infiltrating it, and we can look through history and see there's a lot of different ways for that to happen. Wait till I get to talking about Scientology. But anyway, back to the art of war. Number 7, with his forces intact, he will dispute the mastery of the empire, and thus, without losing a man, his triumph will be complete. Annotation. Owing to the double meanings in the Chinese text, the latter part of the sentence is susceptible, or I'm sorry, susceptible of quite a different meaning. Quote, and thus, the weapon not being blunted by use, its keenness remains perfect, end quote. And then it goes on to Sun Tzu, this is the method of attacking by stratagem. And thus the weapon not being blunted by use, its keenness remains perfect. I like that translation, or that interpretation, or that meaning, because it means that weapon had not been used. Not just not used repeatedly, or I'm not gonna. Hey, I gotta move on. I gotta stay focused here. Number 8, it is the rule in war. If your forces are 10 to the enemy's 1, to surround him. If 5 to 1, attack him. Annotation, straight away, without waiting for any further advantage. End annotation. Strike while the iron's hot. Now, again, I want to remind you of what I was saying a while ago about action, interference action, not violent action, can be considered an attack. All right, so I'm dancing with nuance here. Continuing, Sun Tzu says, if twice as numerous, to divide our army into 2. So, just annotation. Tumu takes exception to the saying, and at first sight, indeed, it appears to violate a fundamental principle of war. Cao Kung, however, gives a clue to Sun Tzu's meaning. Quote, being two to the enemy's one, we may use one part of our army in the regular way and the other part for some special diversion, end quote. Brilliant, brilliant. Chung Yu, of course, it was brilliant. It was a general. Well, never mind. Chang Yu thus further elucidates the point. Quote, if your force is twice as numerous as that of the enemy, it should be split into two divisions, one to meet the enemy at the front and one to fall upon his rear. If he replies to the frontal attack, they may be crushed from behind. If to the rearward attack, he may be crushed in the front, end quote. So this is your typical pincer maneuver that was utilized quite heavily in the Second World War. Okay, back to the annotation. Sorry, I should have interrupted myself. But back to the annotation. This is what is meant by saying that one part may be used in the regular way and the other for some special diversion. Tumu does not understand that dividing one's army is simply an irregular, just as concentrating it is the regular strategical method, and he is too hasty in calling this a mistake, end quote. Number 9, if equally matched, we can offer battle. Annotation, Li Chuan, followed by Ho Shi, gives the following paraphrase, quote, if attackers and attacked are equally matched in strength, only the able general will fight, end quote. In other words, pick your battles. Continuing with Sun Tzu, if slightly inferior in numbers, we can avoid the enemy. Annotation, the meaning we can watch the enemy is certainly a great improvement on the above, but unfortunately there appears to be no very good authority for the variant. Chang Yu reminds us that the saying only applies if the other factors are equal. A small difference in numbers is often more than counterbalanced by superior energy and discipline. Ending annotation. So it's not just about the balance of the numbers, but what are the abilities, what are the skill sets that are available, and that's where my interpretation of meritocracy comes into play. My girlfriend, she's absolutely amazing on the organ and the piano. She's been doing it all her life. I wouldn't even try to start. On the same note, there are things that I can do that she's not willing to try because it's outside of her wheelhouse. We have that mutual respect. I appreciate that. But closing out this number 9 from Sun Tzu, if quite unequal in every way, we can flee from him. So what I'm gonna expound upon here is that observing, we can watch the enemy, is definitely a great way to go. Recording everything, like using your video camera, and I understand that's risky these days, but using your phone, record everything. That's the courtroom that needs to be saved. That's the courtroom that needs to be presented, because it's the real facts as things unfolded. And it's a lot more accurate than your own memory. But running away to engage at some point in the future, there's no dishonor in that. It's better, in my opinion. But again, that's on an individual to individual basis and what you're going to choose. Again, I'm not advocating for violence, but I believe in self-defense. You're going to have to figure that out for yourself. Number 10, hence, though an obstinate fight, may be made by a small force. In the end, it must be captured by the larger force. That's why interrupting the reinforcements or having good communication systems where you can pull in your own reinforcements. That's why I love the whistle brigades. They're loud enough to be heard at a pretty good distance. And if folks are out there, it's going to draw attention. It's going to draw attention. So yeah, and I'm gonna just say something here in the video that I posted about yesterday, both on my Facebook account and on my YouTube account. Check your local laws on what it requires, state laws on the rules around citizens arrest. Every state is different. You got to know your rights. You got to know what it is you can do. And this goes into the risk calculations for every individual, what they need to make for themselves. Number 11. Now, the general is the bulwark of the state. If the bulwark is complete at all points, the state will be strong. If the bulwark is defective, the state will be weak. Annotation. As Li Chuan tersely puts it, quote, gap indicates deficiency. If the general's ability is not perfect, i.e., if he's not thoroughly versed in his profession, his army will lack strength, end quote. In annotation. Pete Hegseth. Moving on. Number 12. Christy Nome. You know all the usual suspects. I don't need to run down the list. But anyway, this is where things really start getting fun, in my opinion. Remember, we're talking about attack by stratagem. All right. Number 12. There are 3 ways in which a ruler can bring misfortune upon his army. Number 13. The first way, by commanding the army to advance or to retreat, being ignorant of the fact that it cannot obey. This is called hobbling the army. Annotation. Li Chuan adds the comment, quote, it is like tying together the legs of a thoroughbred so that it is unable to gallop, end quote. One would naturally think of the ruler, that's in quotes, in this passage as being at home and trying to direct the movements of his army from a distance. But the commentators understand just the reverse. And the quote saying, quote the saying of Te Kung, quote, a kingdom should not be governed from without, and an army should not be directed from within, end quote. Of course, it is true that during an engagement or when in close touch with the enemy, the general should not be in the thick of his own troops, but a little distance apart. Otherwise, he will be liable to misjudge the position as a whole and give wrongful orders. In annotation, and in that context, the point of observation can be from a hilltop or a higher point. Using military terms, Overwatch. That's a whole thing. But anyway. But observing from a high point, that's why in a lot of movies or books or historical accounts of European medieval battles, you'll have the king or the general be on a hilltop nearby overlooking things and directing orders that way. So, yes, observation close enough to be able to know exactly what's going on, but from far enough away to be safe. But we're talking about the general here. And the leadership structure under that general, again, needs to be figured out on an organization by organization structure or system. Number 14, the second way that a ruler can bring misfortune to his army, by attempting to govern an army in the same way he administers a kingdom, being ignorant of the conditions which obtain in an army. This causes restlessness in the soldiers' minds. Annotation. Salcombe's note is, freely translated, quote, "The military sphere and the civilian sphere are wholly distinct. You can't handle an army in kid gloves," end quote. And Chung Yu says, quote, "Humanity and justice are the principles on which to govern a state, but not an army. Opportunism and flexibility, on the other hand, are military rather than civil virtues to assimilate the governing of an army," end quote, "to that of a state understood," end annotation. So, yeah, you can't. I hope that it kind of helps explain where some of the shortcomings are with this current administration. I'm pretty sure Pete Hegseth didn't read any of this, or definitely didn't study it deeply, or if he did, he completely forgot all of it. I don't know what happened there. There was a breakdown in communication for sure. And then number 15, the third way that a ruler can destroy his military is by employing the officers of his army without discrimination. Annotation. That is, he is not careful to use the right man in the right place, end quote, or end annotation. Back to Sun Tzu. Through ignorance of his military principle or of adaptation to circumstances. This shakes the confidence of the soldiers. Let me reread that without the annotation. Right? The third way that a ruler can destroy their military is by employing the officers of his army without discrimination through ignorance of the military principle of adaptation to circumstances. This shakes the confidence of the soldiers. I can only hope that we do have active duty military that are taking stands. I'm hearing little rumblings. I'm hearing that's active duty military are reaching out to former JAG officers that are working as lawyers, asking what is a lawful order. You know, for you active duty military, go grab your copy of the UCMJ. Read Articles 91, 90, 90, 91, and 92. All right, Articles 90, 91, and 92. It's all right there. It's all right there. So, yeah, the civilian world and the military world are two completely different things. That's why I referred to the UCMJ, the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It's a whole nother set of laws that people in the military have to live by, above and beyond all the laws that civilians are held to. So, yeah. Moving right along. So, finishing up the annotations on number 15, that third way of destroying the ruler destroying the military. I follow the annotator follows Mei Yao Chen's here. The other commentators refer not to the ruler as in Numbers 13 and 14, but to the officers he employs, Pete Hegseth. Thus, Tu Yu says, quote, "If a general is ignorant of the principles of adaptation, he must not be entrusted with the position of authority," end quote. Tu Mu quotes, quote, "The skillful employer of men will employ the wise man, the brave man, the covetous man, and the stupid man. For the wise man delights in establishing his merit. The brave man likes to show his courage in action. The covetous man is quick at seizing advantages, and the stupid man has no fear of death. End quote. Powerful. All right. I have nothing to add to that. Number 16. But when the army is restless and distrustful, trouble is sure to come from the other feudal princes. This is simply bringing anarchy into the army and flinging victory away. Seeds of doubt. Seeds of doubt. Why, like, why would any active duty military guy or girl be willing to sacrifice their dignity and show themselves to be a hypocrite by violating their oath of enlistment by willfully following illegal orders? Of course, I can't apply that same question to ICE because I'm pretty sure that most of them couldn't even pass the ASVAB test, or if they could, they just couldn't make it. I'm just speaking as a veteran here. From what I've been seeing, some of them are pretty weak-minded and in body and emotionally immature, and it's bad. It's bad. I'm not here to make diagnoses. I'm making observations. But planting those seeds of doubt, asking questions about do you support this execution of Alex Pretti, or the execution of Renee Nicole Good? It's seeds of doubt. Seeds of doubt. It's the same sort of thing that these extremists used in getting into Christianity. It's wild. I need to move right along. Oh, holy cow, I'm already at 36 minutes. All right, number 17. Thus, we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. Number 1, he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. Annotation. Chung Yu says, if he can fight, he advances and takes the offense. If he cannot fight, he retreats and remains on the defense. If he will invariably conquer, who knows whether it is right to take advantage of the offense or the defense. End annotation. Number 2, he will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. It's all about psychological engagement. The communications of it, the large numbers of folks that turned out in the Twin Cities with that general strike, absolutely glorious, and that's a superior force knowing how to handle an inferior force, the ICE units in town. I don't have all the numbers about how many people turned out. I don't know how to compare that to breaking down the different types of military. I don't have time for that analysis. I'm sure there's somebody probably is, but I don't have the time for that. Anyway, the annotation on this. Okay, let me go back to number 2. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. Annotation. This is not merely the general's ability to estimate numbers correctly, as Li Chuan and others make out. Cheng Yu expounds the saying more satisfactorily. Quote, by applying the art of war, it is possible with a lesser force to defeat a greater force, and vice versa. The secret lies in the eye of the locality and not letting the right moment slip. Thus, Wu Shu says, with a superior force, make for easy ground. With an inferior force, make for difficult ground. End quote, end quote. End annotation. So, to expound it, my own opinions on that is, if you can retreat into an area where you can use that, like for example, urban environments, to your advantage, which military guys are trained for that because of all the nonsense that's been going on over there in the Middle East for way too damn long, way too long. Pretty much the lives of my and way too long. I'll just put it that way. Um, but they've been trained to do all that stuff. The ICE guys, they're not trained for that. 47 days of training. What? It's nuts. At least the Air Force does 13 weeks of basic. All right. Yeah, I'm dogging on my own branch. But they've made some changes lately I'm not fond of. But back to this. If you're outnumbered, it's okay to, in fact, it's advantageous to retreat to a more difficult ground, hillier ground, wooded land, um, whatever is reasonably available that's going to hamper the superior force in their movements. And then, like it says, if you hold the superior force, then moving out to open ground to draw out the opposition is preferred. Number three, the third way of winning, he will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. Unity. Unity. I'll tell you right now, MAGA doesn't have that. That's part of the reason why we're here. Number four, he will win who prepared himself, awaits to take the enemy unprepared. So it's knowing how to catch him by surprise. That doesn't mean by setting traps or anything, just being able to leverage things like, oh, I don't know, being a dude in a inflatable frog costume that's got the tolerance to be able to just say, yeah, I've had hotter tamales than that pepper spray. You know, everybody's got their own style. But that caught ICE in Portland and MAGA as a whole off guard because they didn't see the reaction they were hoping for. So they they caught the enemy unprepared. Number five, he will win who has his military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. So when you in annotation, Tu Yu quotes Yang Su as saying, quote, "It is the sovereign's function to give broad instructions, but to decide on battle, it is the function of the general," end quote. It is needless to dilute, or I'm sorry, it is needless to dilate on the military disasters which have been caused by undue influence with operations in the field on the part of the home government. Napoleon undoubtedly owed much of its extraordinary success to the fact that he was not hampered by central authority. In annotation. I think we can see how that's pretty easily applicable right now with how hard the Trump administration is pushing for on DHS and ICE. So, yeah, direct interference there. And then finishing up number five, which I'll go back and I'll read the full context without the annotations. Victory lies in the knowledge of these 5 points. So, literally, the 5 things are knowledge of the principles of victory. So, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to read those 5 and without the annotations. Number 1, he will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. Number 3, he will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. Number 4, he will win who prepared himself, awaits to take the enemy unprepared. And number 5, he will win who has military capacity and is not interfered with by the sovereign. Number 18, we're almost done with this. Number 18, Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. And the annotations, I needed to read that all the way through. I'll leave that up on the screen like that while I go through the annotations. First set of annotations. Li Xuan cites the case of Fuxian, Prince of Qin, who in 383 AD marched with a vast army against the Qin emperor. When warned not to despise an army who could command the services of such men as Sai-an and Huan Chong, he boastfully replied, quote, I have the population of 8 provinces at my back, infantry and horsemen to the number of 1,000,000. Why, they could dam up the Yangtze River itself by merely throwing their whips into the stream. What danger have I to fear? End quote. Nevertheless, his forces were soon after disastrously routed at the Fei River, and he was obliged to beat a hasty retreat. End annotation. Yeah, because apparently he didn't know his enemy. And in the last annotation, Chen Yu says, quote, knowing the enemy enables you to take the offense. Knowing yourself enables you to stand on the defense, end quote. He adds, attack is the secret of defense. Defense is the planning of an attack, end quote. It would be hard to find a better epitome of the root principle of the war. If you've made it to the end of this 47-minute long video, kudos to you. That tells me that you're actually hungry for some knowledge. So do me a favor and drop a blue heart in the comments. Until the next video, take care of yourself and then take care of some others if you can. And try to get the rest that you need, as much as you possibly can get without being, take the rest you can get. And try to get plenty of fluids in your system. Take care.